In all honesty, I see why red pillars don't stitch my content that often. It's really, it's really hard to stitch my content, and it's really hard to stitch any of our like anybody that makes content like mine, like anti-misogynist content. I don't care, man or woman, doesn't matter. Um, Very rarely do these people do like red pillars stitch the content and engage with it in a genuine way, right? They usually just create straw man arguments and then knock down the arguments. They never refute what is actually being said in the videos. Um, I see why you guys don't engage with my content like that. I often wondered. I was like, man, 'cause my platform, both my platforms are like very, decent, whatever. I got like 150,000 followers and subscribers across both platforms, across YouTube and TikTok. But rarely are my videos stitched by red pillars. They're stitched by other people, people who agree, but rarely are they stitched by red pillars. And I started to, pretty quickly, I was like, oh, okay, I see why. I see why they don't do it. You guys don't have a fucking point. You don't have a point. You don't know what you're talking about ever. You can never engage in the conversation genuinely. But I invite any of you men to come on, join me on my live. We can have the discussion openly.
No longer, men no longer have to put themselves. I would ask, when did men used to put themselves at risk for women? Was it around this age? Sir, men have never protected women. Like, what are you talking about?
Hold up.
And wait, just so we're clear, I didn't put any of that corny music. My video didn't have music in the background. I just wanted to be abundantly clear. That's not my music. Okay, he added that.
It's almost like you're a feminist content producing machine.
Yeah. Yeah. But is that like a gotcha or something? Like the way you guys try to use feminist and feminism as an attack on a man is hilarious. Yes. I make feminist content. Absolutely. I am pro-feminism. Absolutely. Even as a man. Yep. I'm pro-feminism. I know white people that are anti white supremacy too. I know heterosexual people that are anti abuse against LGBTQIA folks as well. Like there are a lot of us out here. Like there are a lot of people out here who we may not belong to the group, to the marginalized group, but we see that that there's a need for people who don't belong to the marginalized group to defend the marginalized group. Like there's like it is necessary for me as a man to use my voice to defend marginalized groups of people. The same way I deem it necessary for white people to protect black people and protect marginalized groups of people based on their race and or ethnicity. The same way I think that I need to step up and defend people against ICE and against abusive tactics that this government is using on foreign-born Americans. Right? Yes. Like, yeah, that's what we're supposed to do. What, why is that? That's not a gotcha. Like, you make feminist content. You're a feminist content making machine. Did you think that was like a slight against me? It's not. I'm not hiding it. My fucking bio says anti-red pill. What the fuck?
How much are you going to continue to pander to women? 90% of infrastructure jobs are held by men, which means they're protected from elements in nature.
That's irrelevant. Remember what I said, how these dudes just create straw man arguments. I said men don't protect women. His concept of protection is women are protected by the elements because men, do infrastructure jobs or whatever. Oh man, I'm so sick of this argument of you guys talking about infrastructure. And since the industry is dominated by men, that means that they are doing this to protect women. I want to be abundantly clear. When they shipped the men off to war, the women did the infrastructural jobs. They did the factory jobs. They did the blue collar jobs. The women did it and they did them well. So much so they didn't have a reason to get rid of women. When the men came back from the war, the manufacturers and whatnot, they didn't have a reason. They didn't actually have a reason to get rid of women. It wasn't like the women were less productive than the men. They weren't. That wasn't what happened. So they had to trick the women. They had to force the women, cajole the women to leave the job. That's what happened. If women are so bad at these jobs, then why did they need to lie to women? Why did they need to set the system against women to force them out of the jobs? Why couldn't they just do it on a merit-based system where it was like, well, men are just actually better at these jobs, so therefore let's bring them in? No. That's not what happened. That's not what happened. That never disproves anything. Again, because I'm a black person, I will say to anybody, because I feel like a lot of people, even racist people, are afraid to admit publicly that they're racist, right? So I'm going to ask you the question. The same thing that you're going to say about women, you can say the same thing about black men, right? Why aren't these infrastructural jobs, why aren't they proportionally filled with black men? Black people make up 15% of the population, right? So it would be a one-to-one. So let's say that if we're talking about an infrastructural job, why wouldn't black men make up 15% of infrastructural jobs? You see what I'm saying? Like if they're dominated by men, so it's almost 100% male dominated, right? Cool. Why? It's not like they're made up of 60% white men, 15% black men, 25% Latino. Like that's not what it is. It is 75%, 70% white men. It is 24% Latino men and 6% black men. That is how it's set up. So are white men just inherently better at infrastructural jobs? Are they stronger than Latino men? Are they smarter than black men? Like, is that what you're telling me? When you guys talk about the world being built by people, okay, yes, white people have spread colonialism all across the globe and they have colonial infrastructures all across the globe. That does not mean that white people built the world. That does not mean that white people are smarter than East Asians or white people are smarter than sub-Saharan African people. That's not like, that isn't what it means. Just because they dominate something doesn't mean they're better. It doesn't mean that the groups of people that aren't represented proportionally are worse at it. That's not what it means, bro. The same way I would say that just because a lot like there's a disproportionate amount of people, foreign-born people in tech in America. There's a disproportionate amount of people, foreign-born people in STEM, right? Like if they only make up 1 or 2%, but they don't make up 1 or 2% of STEM. People in STEM, right? That's what I'm saying. Do you believe that East Asians are just better at math? Are you one of those fucking idiots? You see what I'm saying? Like that is so racist. Even if you think that is a positive stereotype, that is so fucking racist. I don't know what to tell you. That is so sexist to believe that just because something is 90% male dominated, that women don't want to do the job or incapable of doing the job. You're a fucking idiot. That's not what it means. It just means that men control every fucking thing and they block women out of whatever jobs and whatever fields they want to. That is why women aren't in these fields. Period, point blank, full stop.
Percent of men are in law enforcement, which protects women as well too, which leaves roughly 13% of women in law enforcement. Cut that in half because they work administrative work as well too.
The police don't protect women from shit. Police prey on women all the time. They prey on women. Little girls, starting with little girls, you can go look up the numbers on the percentage of little girls that are harassed sexually and raped by police officers, sexually assaulted by police officers. Happens all the time. Talk about the police officers, the wives of the police officers. Now, there's a study that was done in the 90s that reported that 40% of law enforcement people that participated in the study reported abuse to abusing their partners, right? This study was inconclusive. I get that, right? But the number is still high. Even if it ain't 40%, I bet you it was 1 out of 5. I bet you it was 1 out of 4. 25%. 25% is ridiculously high for law enforcement. Listen to what I'm saying. Nobody in law enforcement should be abusive. Nobody should. It should be a sum zero game. How are you out here enforcing the law while breaking it? You see what I'm saying? Like, when it comes to law enforcement, you should be perfect when it comes to not breaking the law. The least we should be able to expect of law enforcement agents is that they uphold the law, even when nobody's looking, especially for themselves. Law enforcement does not protect women, and it doesn't protect citizens. It protects corporations, and it protects very powerful people. And more importantly, it protects the institutions that oppress us. It protects racism, it protects capitalism, and it protects the patriarchy. It doesn't protect the citizens, though.
Not in this country, not in this culture. Men have never protected women.
Premium pandering at its finest.
Almost like you ignore the system around you with police, infrastructure, banking systems to prevent them from having financial hardships, and these programs that protect women. And
wait, you said the banking systems prevent women from having financial hardships?
More. At this point, public offender, I think you're either trolling or doing a bit. Because nobody white knights for women this hard towards blatantly ignorant. All your content is doing is pushing an overcorrection in society where opening doors and defending women is now a patronizing event.
Who are they risking themselves to protect women from? Other men.
We protect women from themselves, their own decisions, with infrastructure from nature, electricity, which protects women, armaments, guns, we build ammo, you name it. There's 1,000 things that I can name. Women are protected by men as a whole. You're insane. I guarantee you, if men disappeared overnight, things wouldn't even last a month. If I had to address the rest of your stupid content today, I'd have to figure out a way to fit 3,000 hours in a day.
Brother, I'm not the one. Like, maybe you need to move around, maybe you need to find somebody else. I'm not the one. But here's what I'm gonna do. So let's go through this real quick. So the first thing I want to address, or one of the last things that I want to address that he said, was about the banking system. Now, I played this video the other day, but this is a perfect video to start off with, right? Perfect video to start off with, since he claimed the banking system protects women. A brief history of women's rights in this country.
Here's a list of how long women and minorities have had their rights in the United States. Women have only been able to open their own bank account without the signature of a man in all 50 states since 1988. No fault.
Wait, the banking system that you just said protects women wouldn't even allow women to open up a bank account until 1988, 37 years ago. In 1988, I got my first bike. I learned to ride a bike with no training wheels in 1980. I got my first bike with no training wheels on my birthday, January 4th. Yeah, and I was riding around my neighborhood. I remember getting my bike. Like, I remember it. In 1988, I was playing Nintendo. I had a Nintendo system. I had Gyromite. That was the first. Like, that was not long ago. That was not that long ago. That means my mother, who worked at a bank, she worked at a bank prior to 1988. She was a manager of a bank. Couldn't have a bank account without a man's signature. My mother was a manager of a bank in the 80s, and she couldn't open up a bank account without a man's signature.
1988. No-fault divorce has only existed since 2010. Women have only been able to breastfeed in public without facing public indecency charges, which is up to 180 days in jail, since 2018. Women were only allowed official positions in the military after World War II in 1948. Women have only been able to sit in federal juries since 1973. Women have only been able to own their...
That means if a woman was on trial, she did not get to get judged by a jury of her peers, because it was all men, right? I mean, men are a part of her peers, but, like, it wasn't women weren't represented. So they were always being judged by men all the time. That's crazy. Again, as a black person, a jury of my peers should be some black people up there, some white people up there, some Asian people up there. Those are my peers. There's America is a melting pot, right? But there was a long time when black people couldn't serve on juries. So every single time we would go to trial, there would only be white jurors up there. And most of them were men. It was white men on the jury. It wouldn't even be white women. It was all white men. It was all white men. That's crazy. Remember 12 Angry Men? Bro, This is recent, y'all. This is what I want. This is why I love showing this video. This is recent. So all that stupid shit he talking about, all these systems protect women. Since when? Since when? Remember, I said, was it around this time? And I took it back and I showed him a clip of a man beating his wife in the 50s. That was from the 50s. The point was that shit just happened. My mother was born. My father-in-law was born. My dad was born. My granny was an adult in the 50s. You see what I'm saying? You just make up stuff. Like this is crazy to me.
Their own home without the signature of a man since 1968. But they could only pay in cash until 1974 because that's when they could open bank accounts and take on loans without the signature of a man. Gay marriage has only been legal across all 50 states since 2015. All women, regardless of color or language barrier, have only been able to vote since 1965. And Oprah Winfrey, who is 71 years old, was born before all women had the right to vote. And last but not least, segregation only ended in 1964. Discrimination might be illegal now, but it was legal not too long ago. And it is still deeply rooted into our society. So much of our culture and so much of our education is founded on racism and discrimination. And failing to acknowledge that will only allow it to continue. While these laws were incredible steps in our history, we all still have so much work to do when deconstructing the inherent racism that's been taught to us from a very young age.
And misogyny. And misogyny. The inherent racism and misogyny that is being taught to us from a very young age, that guy has, his brain is addled. Like, it's crazy. This is for the man that was just asking, or just trying to make it seem like you glance over the part when I asked, who are men protecting women from? And you put it in there, you said other men. You never said that. You said that we protect women from themselves, which is a lie. I already just broke that down in another video. Men do not protect women from themselves. There is no statistical data that you can show. There is no scientific data, no peer-reviewed data that shows that when a woman is in the presence of a man, her life becomes safer. None whatsoever. Every single time a woman is in close proximity to a man, her health and her livelihood, the risk of death, the risk of harm goes up, not down. The risk of harm for women when they are in the presence of men in any capacity goes up, not down. So we do not protect women from themselves. Women protect men from themselves. Women, again, I repeat, women protect men from themselves.
If women need men to protect us from what men will do to us without you, explain to the class how that isn't racketeering. I'll wait. I was actually coiled like an adder, waiting for this specific comment, and I didn't even have to wait long. I knew that some nameless, faceless incel troll was going to say this. Do you know how I know? Because you're all the same. Without men giving you rights, you wouldn't even have them. You need men to give you the rights. So you agree. Men withhold access to resources in order to get us to comply. Ooh. Save ourselves, babe. What do you think we've been doing? This is us saving ourselves. And have been in control for hundreds of years. And what have y'all done? What have y'all done other than subjugate us? We don't need you, but you need us. That's why there's a male loneliness epidemic. If your protection of women is contingent on whether or not we comply, then you're not really for protection. You're for control. But we already knew that.
Yes. Only 100, everything, that's 100%. That's it. We don't, women don't need us to protect them from us. They need us to leave them alone.